yesterday when I was talking about that quote from a book regarding not getting lost in one's revelations, but immediately doing acts of beauty based on one's revelations. It was actually a book by Timothy Leary called Your Brain is God. It wasn't the John Lilly book that I was mentioning. Oops. And today I went for my walk in the trail, in my favorite trail, and I was struck by a butterfly that landed on a leaf, and I took a little video. And while I was taking the video, I heard a hummingbird chirp, because I totally speak hummingbird after being in California for so long. So I can hear them where I don't think people would really notice this tiny little chirpy sound of a hummingbird. So I looked over, and there indeed was a hummingbird. I don't think I got the hummingbird on video, but I might have got his little chirp on the video. I'll have to check while I'm editing this. And it was an area where I didn't think there would be hummingbirds. It was a forest, and I always picture them in those trees with the flowers that they like and all the flowers that they like, and not in a forest. But they are there, and they pop out to say hi. It was almost as if he wanted to be acknowledged too when I was acknowledging the butterfly. And I just picked a bunch of blackberries. It's kind of cool that they're right outside my current backyard, and I'm really liking that. I'm liking that I still have access to nature. And this morning I got an email from Mercola.com because I'm on their email list. I don't get their 5 emails a week, but I get one probably every week or two. And in his usual way of writing headlines, it makes you click on it to find out what the heck he's talking about. And he was talking about the benefits of turmeric for brain health and hormonal health. And I did buy some turmeric a week or so ago when I was out and about. So I took a spoon of turmeric in coconut milk with some pepper. And today I felt a lot more even and calm. And I don't know if it's the natural rhythm of things or perhaps the turmeric helped, because that was the only thing I really changed today. I did have it for a few days in a row, and then I got a bit lazy. I will try again with the turmeric tomorrow and maybe make that a part of my daily routine and see if it helps to mop up some of those stress molecules. And I've been really good with my steps this week. My goal was to get up to 8,000 steps a day, and this week I've been averaging close to 13,000, I think. I'm going to jump on my trampoline again tonight, and then I will take a screenshot of my steps for the week, and it's really good. I've been jumping on my trampoline in the morning and then again at night sometimes, and going for a walk in the forest. And I've had a lot of steps, so that's good. I'm feeling like my body just wants to move a lot. It's liking the mini trampoline, it's liking the walks, and I might take that as a clue to get more active, maybe start working out a little bit, because I usually don't really do any of that. I got this email because I'm on the mailing list for MAPS, which is the multidisciplinary something for psychedelic studies, and they're talking about a crowdfunding campaign going on for $60,000 to get psychedelic peer support at Burning Man. I've never been to Burning Man, and the only reason I'm talking about this is that I wonder why there isn't more compassionate care for people going through challenging experiences when they go into those experiences non-volitionally. And I've been talking about that as a theme lately, is this non-volitional altered states of consciousness. And this is what they said. With 10 days left until Burning Man, the Zendo project needs your help to bring psychedelic peer counseling to Burning Man and harm reduction services for a community of 70,000 in the Nevada desert. It's to create safe spaces and compassionate care for people undergoing challenging experiences at Burning Man. So yeah, I'm just wondering why, if it can be fundraised for Burning Man and people need this compassionate care, people who have challenging experiences at Burning Man are likely having those experiences because they did some kind of psychedelic, and so they're not approached saying, well, you're having this crisis right now, you might have a mental illness. They know that it's likely from the psychedelic. And our bodies can create inner psychedelics on their own, and we can go into these extraordinary states non-volitionally. Yet, if that happens, then there's no wonderful crowdfunding for compassionate support and care through challenging experiences. There's no harm reduction help for people who go into these states non-volitionally. But if they are gone into volitionally through a psychedelic, then people know, well, if they have some help temporarily and are guided through it, then they're going to be okay. And that could be true too with people who go into it non-volitionally, but we're never given that compassionate approach at first and that time to figure things out. Usually medications are started as soon as we're intervened with. And that is just not cool. So to me, it's just another example where compassionate care and harm reduction are provided in a certain context, but then when it's daily life and reality, and if people go into those states non-volitionally, well, watch out, you have a mental illness and you're going to require lifelong medication. So yeah, and that's the same with the flow states and with that stuff that Bo Lotto's talking about, creativity and not knowing and yada yada yada. And I was talking about how Timothy Leary, in his book Your Brain is God, on page 103, he was talking about all the people who have gone into these altered state experiences through psychedelics, and then he goes on to say, if we add the millions of institutionalized mystics who have had involuntary psychedelic experiences, this group swells to astounding proportions. And I just want to point out again how he calls the people who are pharmaceuticalized and pathologized institutionalized mystics. And the time he wrote the book was a time when probably a lot more people were institutionalized. But I want to point out that Timothy Leary at least acknowledged that there are people that go into these states involuntarily. So involuntary psychedelic experience, not taking any kind of exogenous substance to go into these psychedelic type experiences. And I mentioned that in an older video, and it was just nice to come across that because I've been talking a lot about how it's not acknowledged, but there are a few people who have acknowledged that there are these IPEs, involuntary psychedelic experiences, but they're received as if they're permanent. They're not received with compassion and care and enough of that to see if it might resolve itself. So I created that little abbreviation, IPE, involuntary psychedelic experience, and PM for pharmaceuticalized mystics, because a lot less of us are institutionalized now, but we're still pharmaceuticalized or chemicalized. And I was thinking again about creating space and how it'd be cool to create a space that was part designed for highly sensitive people, really quiet, really naturey, really serene, and then another part designed for creativity, a safe space for people to be kind of crazy and creative, almost like a safe space to be manic. Because a lot of times we're given safe space when we're captured, we're put in the hospital, which is somewhat safe space. It's a confinement, but it prevents us from doing certain things. But what if we had safe space to be creative and to really harvest that energy? Because it's not necessarily safe to be out and about and be that happy and creative in a very monotonous world. People will notice. So it'd be cool if there was somewhere to go to make the most of that state when it was happening and not have it bounce into all the limitations of the world out there, almost like a fun space and a creative space for people in manic consciousness. Because it would be cool to create a respite, but that's again for when it's getting scary. Where is the safe creative space for when it's not scary and it could be super creative and fun, yet still not something that one wants to be wandering out and about with that energy, because that's when we can end up spending a lot of money, or we can end up being so excited about something that nobody else seems to care about. And so yeah, it could be a harvest space as well as a respite. And maybe once one is bottoming out from the creative harvest, one can just rest and recuperate and be safe. And maybe if one had that safe space, it might help to eliminate some of the so-called problems of mania, like when one spends all their money, or gets in trouble with relationships, or a lot of different things that can happen. But it's more that there's no space designed to be a container for the wonderful creative energy. There's a lot of different ways to contain how it can get out of control, but maybe there's a way to have a safe space for that as well, or help a person design a space or a process for harvesting mania, so one doesn't feel like they need to go out and about and bump into all these things and create a bunch of chaos. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I just had that idea. And yesterday I was walking in the park and I was thinking about the word I made for the business, which is synchronicity. And I was thinking about the first part, synchro, which sounds like the word sing, to sing, la la la, and crow, like the bird. And I was thinking about a logo or something being a singing crow, and it's singing a verse, and perhaps to some kind of city or community, or I don't know. And it was interesting because later I went to go get a drink from a cafe, and I looked over and there was a woman sitting outside the window, and on her wrist said, "Your dreams can come true." And it was a tattoo with birds around it, flying around it, and looked like it could have been crows. And then shortly after I read her tattoo, she didn't see me or anything because I was slightly behind her, but she moved her watch, and her watch strap then covered the tattoo. And I thought it was interesting because had I not looked at that moment and looked a bit later, the tattoo would have been covered up by the watch. The tattoo said dreams come true, not dreams can't come true. And I created a shortened form for non-volitional altered states, which is NVAS. So one could say IPE, involuntary psychedelic experiences, Or one could say NVAS, which is non-volitional altered states. Can we harvest the fruits of non-volitional ego scrambling? And last night, I got my 2,000 calm points on Muse, and I also earned 103 birds. Tweet, tweet, tweet. And I got 63% calm time, which is my highest yet. Woot!